Every time you type a message into ChatGPT, ask an AI assistant a question, or use an AI-powered app on your phone, data is being collected. Training data, conversation history, behavioral patterns, all of it going somewhere. Most people don't read the privacy policies. Most people don't know that conversations they've had with AI tools may have been reviewed by human employees. And most people don't realize that the data they've shared with these tools could be used in ways that are technically legal, but that they never anticipated or consented to in any meaningful sense. I'm not here to scare you or tell you to stop using AI. These are genuinely useful tools, but you deserve to make informed decisions about your privacy, and that means understanding what's actually happening with your data. Today, we're covering exactly that. Let's start with the basics of what's being collected when you use AI tools. When you use an AI assistant like ChatGPT, Claude, or Google's Gemini, the company collects your conversation content, everything you type and everything the AI responds with. They also collect account information if you've created an account, usage data like how often you use the product and which features, device information, and often your IP address. This is pretty standard for any software product, but the content collection is what makes AI tools different. With most apps, your activity data is metadata, what you clicked, how long you spent on a page. With AI assistants, the content itself is the data, and that content can be extremely personal. People have AI conversations about their health concerns, their relationships, their financial situations, their business strategies, and things they would never say publicly. Understanding what happens to those conversations is important. For the major platforms, OpenAI's data policy has evolved significantly over time. By default, conversation content is retained and may be used to train future models. They offer an opt-out for training data use in settings, and they offer a temporary chat mode that doesn't save conversations. Anthropic, Claude, similarly retains conversations and may use them for training, with options to opt out. Google's Gemini uses conversation data in ways connected to your Google account, which means it can be cross-referenced with a much larger ecosystem of data. One thing many users don't realize is that their conversations with AI tools may be reviewed by human employees. When something goes wrong, an AI gives a harmful response, a user complains about an output, or a conversation needs to be labeled for training purposes, human contractors called AI trainers or content moderators often review actual conversation content. OpenAI acknowledges this in their privacy policy. This isn't unique to AI. Human review of content is how most content moderation works across tech, but the intimate nature of AI conversations makes it feel different than knowing a human might review your social media post. From a practical standpoint, this means anything you type into an AI assistant should be considered not fully private, not being actively monitored in real time, but not completely confidential either. For the vast majority of users, this doesn't matter much in practice. But if you're a lawyer discussing case strategy, a doctor asking about patient cases, or a business person sharing proprietary information, this is a genuinely important consideration. The privacy stakes are significantly higher for business and professional use cases. When you or your employees use consumer AI tools for business work, sensitive company information, client names, financial data, product plans, legal matters, HR situations, may be getting fed into these systems and potentially used for training. Several businesses have discovered this the hard way. Samsung made headlines when engineers accidentally shared confidential semiconductor source code with ChatGPT. Several law firms have had to update their policies after discovering attorneys were sharing case information with AI tools. The good news is that the major AI providers have created enterprise-grade versions of their products, specifically to address these concerns. ChatGPT Enterprise, Claude for Work, and Google Workspace's AI features all include terms that give the company control over their data. Conversations aren't used for training, content can be deleted, and there are often additional security features like SOC 2 compliance. If your company is deploying AI tools at scale, the enterprise products are worth the additional cost specifically for these protections. If you're a solo contractor or small business owner and cost is a constraint, at minimum, be thoughtful about what you share. Don't paste client data, social security numbers, proprietary specifications, or anything you'd be uncomfortable seeing used outside of your conversation. Beyond the chat interfaces, AI is embedded throughout your device ecosystem in ways that have privacy implications worth understanding. Voice assistants, Siri, Google Assistant, Alexa, are always listening for their wake words. The processing of what triggers a wake word detection and what gets sent to company servers for actual query processing has been a source of ongoing controversy. Apple, Google, and Amazon have all been caught in stories about human contractors reviewing voice recordings. Policies have improved since the early days, but the fundamental dynamic, a microphone in your home that's always on and connected to a company's servers, carries inherent privacy considerations. On your phone, AI features embedded in apps are collecting behavioral data that helps both personalize the experience and serve advertising. Camera AI features, autocomplete and predictive text, content recommendation algorithms, all of these are learning from your behavior. The aggregated picture of your digital behavior is remarkably detailed and personal, and most of it is being collected without meaningful consent, beyond a checkbox on a terms of service agreement nobody reads. The practical response isn't to disconnect from technology. It's to be deliberate. Use stronger privacy settings on voice assistants, be thoughtful about which apps get microphone and camera access, and understand that free AI features are often subsidized by data collection. Here's the part that actually empowers you. You have more rights around your AI data than most people realize, and the regulatory environment is expanding those rights. Under GDPR in Europe, and increasingly under state laws in the United States, like the California Privacy Rights Act, you have the right to access data companies hold about you, the right to request deletion, and in some cases the right to opt out of certain uses, including training data. Most major AI companies have made these controls accessible. For ChatGPT, in your settings under Data Controls, you can disable chat history, which prevents conversations from being used for training. You can also submit a data deletion request. For Claude, Anthropic has a data privacy section in settings that lets you opt out of training data use. You can also request deletion of your data. For Google, your Google account's privacy controls extend to AI products. My Activity lets you see and delete conversation history. Most of these controls are buried in settings menus rather than prominently featured, which should tell you something about how much these companies want you to use them. But they exist, and taking 5 minutes to configure them meaningfully reduces your data footprint. Let me leave you with concrete, practical habits rather than just concerns. First, treat sensitive information as sensitive, regardless of which tool you're using. Client data, financial details, personal health information, legal strategy, either use the enterprise version of the tool or don't share it at all. Second, use temporary or incognito modes when available. ChatGPT's temporary chat mode and Claude's similar feature don't save conversation history and opt out of training use. Third, review and configure your privacy settings on all AI tools you use regularly. It takes 10 minutes and makes a real difference. Fourth, for voice assistants, turn off the always listening feature when you're not actively using them, or use them only when you're comfortable with that microphone being on. Fifth, be especially thoughtful about AI apps from companies you haven't heard of. The established players, OpenAI, Anthropic, Google, Microsoft, have regulatory scrutiny and public accountability that incentivizes somewhat reasonable behavior. Random AI apps you download from the App Store don't always have those constraints. Privacy in AI is one of those topics that genuinely deserves more public attention than it gets. The technology is moving fast, the regulations are playing catch-up, and the default settings on most platforms are optimized for the company's data collection, not your privacy. But you're not powerless here. The steps I outlined today are real and accessible. The description has a checklist of privacy settings to configure across the major AI platforms, plus links to the privacy policy summaries, so you don't have to read thousands of words of legal language. If you found this useful, subscribe. We cover AI in ways that are honest about both the benefits and the things you should actually know. See you next time.